Currently, in the fall of 2023, a U.S. passport will get you into about 186 countries visa-free, but that's going to change a little bit in 2024. Although technically not a visa, U.S. passport holders will need to get something called an ETIAS authorization to enter into 30 countries in the European Schengen zone starting in 2024. ETIAS stands for European Transportation Information Authorization System, and it's a system that is going to gather information about you to make sure that you're someone that they want traveling within the 30 countries of the Schengen zone. Your ETIAS application is not a visa application. Number one, it's not going to take as long to fill this out. You don't have to wait for a long time to get this information back. It's going to come back to you in a few minutes. You're paying $7 versus, $80 to $100 for some sort of visa. There is also no interview process, and there's also no finger biometrics that are taken through this process. So it's just a way to get information into a system to know that the person who's coming in is who they are and it's not fraudulent. And also it'll be keeping track of when you start going from one country to another. So that's part of their entry-exit system. They'll be able to track where you're going into the different borders. And that's just to provide safety and also make it a little bit quicker when you're going through some of those border crossings so that that information is already there and they know where you're traveling to and from. One of the things you're going to need for that authorization is your passport. And the most important thing about that is that it's not older than 10 years old and that you still have at least 3 months from your departure date from that country or from that zone that it's still good on your passport. Now, if you have less than that, you'll need to apply for a new passport before you apply for your ETIAS because they're going to look at that date and they're going to deny you that authorization. So if your passport only has a few months left on it, now is the time to get that new passport so that you can start planning that trip for the spring of 2024. So for example, if your departure date from, as in coming back to the US, coming home, is January 30th, you're going to want to make sure that your passport is good up until February, March, April 30th. And that if it's good up until that long, great. If it's getting close to that, I would probably renew your passport. And if it's longer than that, great. And if your passport is more than 10 years old, which generally in the US isn't, valid, your passports are only valid for 10 years in the United States, 5 years if you're a child, you will need to make sure that your passport is up to date. Other information they're going to ask you for is an email address and an alternate email address, so make sure you have that. They're also going to ask you for a phone number and an alternate phone number, so make sure you have that. And of course, all of your personal information like your address and some other things like employment, schooling, gender, and things like your surname, maiden name, parent information. So a lot of things that seem like you're applying for a visa, but again, it's just to be able to go through these checks and make sure that you are someone that they want to be able to cross into their borders. Other things you're going to need to apply for your ETIAS is your itinerary, where you're going to be staying, how long you're going to be staying, what countries you'll be traveling through. Will you be staying at a hotel, a hostel, Airbnb, family and friends, that type of thing. The last thing you're going to need is a debit or a credit card to pay the approximately $8 fee for application and processing your ETIAS, and generally then you will get your authorization fairly quickly. But there are times that someone may get rejected or be called in for an interview, and these are some of the things to look out for. If your application is not approved pretty quickly, it will go through a secondary screening, and you'll have to provide additional information, for example, maybe your employer or school information, but they're also going to have you enter information like criminal records, if you've been to a war zone in the last 10 years, and if you have any sort of deportation on your record, they will need to know that information, and you'll have to enter that in and possibly schedule an interview with them to go through all of this information with you to see if you can get approved for an ETIAS. Important thing to note is when you fill out your ETIAS application and you put a country in that's the country you're going to be entering in on, and you're planning on visiting other countries during your stay, make sure that you are actually entering in the country that you set on your application. So if you put you're going to enter in on Spain, and then you want to go see, like, France and England and Ireland and Denmark or whatever, you're going to make sure you enter in Spain and not change your mind and decide, oh, I'm going to enter in England. That could get you denied entry. So make sure you're entering in the country that you stated on your application. Your ETIAS is good for up to 3 years or until your passport expires, and can be used for up to 90 days within a 180-day period. Once you are coming into your Schengen area country, you'll need to provide your passport, your ETIAS authorization, all of your documents like where you're going to be staying and things like that. But they also may request some sort of financial means information. They probably won't do that, but what they're saying is that you'll need to show that you have the means, somewhere from around 14 euros to 130 euros a day, to be able to sustain yourself through that stay. And if you're staying with family members or friends, they will have to show that too, so in case you don't have it, they have it. So generally, if you've prepaid like a hotel, something like that, you can show them that, and I think that will be fine. But just remember, you might have to show something like a credit card or possibly a bank statement showing that you have funds to be able to provide financial means for yourself while you're in country. With regard to medical insurance, they are not going to require you to have medical insurance that's valid while you go into the country. That being said, if you're going to be traveling out of the country, I generally carry some sort of additional medical insurance with me. That way I know that if I get hurt or sick during my stay that's going to require some sort of hospitalization or evacuation, I'm able to get that covered. You'll need to check with your insurance policy and see if it's covered in other countries, and if it is, maybe that's good enough. But if it isn't, if you think you're going to be doing some hiking or biking, or you might get sick with something that you ate in a country that could require hospitalization, you'll want to make sure that you get some sort of traveler's insurance to make sure you're not hit with a huge bill once you get home. Well, I hope that gave you some great information on what it's going to take for you to travel to Europe in 2024. So take out your passports now, take a good look at them, make sure there's enough time and that it's not too old, and start getting your plans ready to visit Europe in 2024. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please let me know in the comments below and hit the subscribe button. But for now, I want you to let me know, if you're going to visit Europe in 2024, what country are you visiting? Put those in the comments below too. Until the next time, juice life, drink the joy, keep life simple, get your ETIAS for Europe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.